and what inspired you to start this business in the first place?
After when I was completing my tenure at Zomato,
Yes,
like I had already decided that I wanted to move on. For
right,
me, having a purpose was very important because that's what I felt was missing in my previous work. No one making sustainable bags that are fun, that are high on quality and utility. See, the fact that we want to help the planet is something that we put on us, not on the consumer. No, consumer should not have to be like, oh, it's sustainable, so I'll compromise a little bit. No, 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 no. If you start thinking about it that way, then you're never going to adopt sustainability completely. So we've been bootstrapped so far, and we've also been profitable for the last 4 years. We are very clear that we want to build a business that has very strong fundamentals first. And if we ever do take investor money, it will only be to accelerate our growth and not something that we need for survival.
So obviously, I went through your profile, read a little bit about you. You are an engineering student who
Yes.
later switched into marketing and branding
Yeah.
through GUL, and then again further through Zomato,
Yeah.
and then you took it forward with ecoright.
Yeah.
So essentially, just wanted to know more about your background and what inspired you to start this business in the first place, like this impact business.
Right. So you already know a little bit about my background. Now, after when I was completing my tenure at Zomato,
Yes,
like I had already decided that I wanted to move on. In the last few months, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. For
right,
me, having a purpose was very important because that's what I felt was missing in my previous work.
right.
And like for like having either a environmental or a social purpose to the business is something that at that point I felt would make me get out of bed in the morning every day because the work that I was doing would have a larger impact on the planet. Now,
Mhm.
how all of this came about is first I'll talk about like a little bit about my family background. Right.
Yes.
So I come from a textiles family background. So my
Okay.
grandfather was an entrepreneur in textiles. My father is an entrepreneur in textiles.
Nice.
And as a result, we've always had cotton bags lying around at home
Right.
growing up, which is why
Right.
like our parents never let us, like use plastic. They always said, let's carry our own cotton bag to the point where it was also a little annoying when we were kids.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
if we forgot to carry our own bag, then we'd have to bring stuff in our hands because we would
Right.
never take plastic.
Right.
Now, so that kind of like when you have that little bit of an upbringing, it gets ingrained in your in whatever you're doing, right? It just becomes part of your life.
Right.
When I was figuring out what I wanted to do, one of the thoughts that came to my mind is that a lot of people that I worked with, studied with, knew professionally and through college, they they were still using plastic bags.
Right.
And at that point, India hadn't banned plastic bags, right? Now it's a little lesser,
Yeah.
even though there are ways to skirt those rules, but like it's still lesser. By that point, I realized, my thought process was that these people um, clearly are very well educated, right? They know the problems that our planet is facing, yet there is something that there's nothing that inspires them to, let's say, move to a sustainable alternative.
Mhm.
Why are these people still using plastic? It's not a knowledge problem.
Yeah.
There is some other issue which is stopping them.
Right.
And the thought process at that point was, let us make it easy for them first.
Right.
Let's make a simple product that is easy to use, easy to wash and reuse, fold and keep in your pocket. Um, a bag that they can carry everywhere that they go and at a price point that doesn't hurt their pocket. If I
Hmm.
price this bag at 1,000 rupees, then again, even if it's a audience that can afford the 1,000 rupees, they may not see the value in it. So
Hmm.
let's make it value conscious and let's make it easy for them to use. And the
Right.
main differentiator was, let's put a bright design or graphic on it, something that talks about the environment.
Interesting.
Um, Either the beauty of nature, the problem of plastic pollution, something that would make them remember
Right.
that I have a bag at home. If I'm going shopping, I should keep it with me. So that's the very simple idea with which we started ecoright. We designed a simple range of tote bags, launched it on our website, Amazon in India and the US. We did
Okay.
the US at the same point because I had a very, very simple, like, like a lot of the decisions that we take at ecoright are very, very, simple, right?
Hmm.
It's like we look at the problem, say, is the problem that the planet is facing only happening in India? No,
Right.
right? It's something that is felt by people around the world. So why shouldn't the solution go around the world?
Right.
Why should it be a solution only tailored to one geography? Which is why we started selling in both in India and the US, and we started seeing great consumer love coming in terms of reviews, in terms of the ratings, in terms of mails that we're getting from customers. That this is something that they hadn't seen before. Such well-designed cotton tote bags, and that's what gave us the confidence that there is a real business to be made here. Because at the end of the day, we are not running a charitable organization. It is
100%.
a for-profit business, but we are the only way that we will be able to scale this if we are able to make the right kind of profits and create the right kind of impact. Which is
Right.
why we have not moved to a luxury price point over the
Hmm.
last 5-6
I
years.
noticed that. Yeah.
We try and stay within the consumer's expected price point. We
Correct.
understand that there's consumers ready to pay 10-15% more for a sustainable product, but if we price it at 2x 3x, it's not going to work.
Hmm.
So after the first year or so, when we started seeing this start to scale, is when my co-founder Nikita joined. So we studied together, then we soon later got married as well.
Oh, you got, oh, congrats. Okay.
Yeah,
I am calculating.
yeah, yeah. So like she also saw the potential that we have in the business. Is there is a clear white space where people are not making sustainable products look good. Like
Hmm.
sustainable products, when she came in, which was a major turning point for us because she came in with the right consumer perspective. And her perspective was that we're solving one problem, which is plastic pollution. But
Hmm.
what about the other 10 bags that are there in our consumer's wardrobe, that are there in my wardrobe as well,
Hmm.
that are made using leather, PU, polyester, nylon, which are all different versions of plastic,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know? And that's when we realize that there is a very, very big space here where people are like, there is no one making sustainable bags that are fun, that are high on quality and utility. See, the problem with sustainable products as an industry is that either they're at a luxury price point, you can buy a beautiful
Correct.
sustainable mag made out of pineapple leather for 10,000 rupees.
Correct. Correct.
Correct? So you have one sustainable bag, and that's it. And that is also for show off because you don't want the 10,000 rupee bag to get spoiled.
Correct.
Um, so either they're at a luxury price point, or the ones that are more like affordable are often very dull and drab. They're not inspiring. They don't like. My customer should want to use the product, right?
Yes.
उनके अंदर से आना चाहिए कि this is the kind of product that we love.
Yes.
What a beautiful design, or what fantastic. It has like 5,000 reviews at 4.5. What a great product.
And
So
the sustainability is like an added bonus.
yeah, so we talk about sustainability everywhere, right?
Hmm.
That is one of our core pillars on which we stand.
Right.
But we don't expect the consumers to switch just because of that.
Hmm. Exactly.
So the problem is that a lot of times when sustainable products are made, it's like, Elton, you need to buy this product. I know there are problems with it, but you have to become sustainable. It
Hmm.
doesn't work like that. Maybe I'll convert one Elton, but what about the other 100 Eltons
Yeah. Yeah.
who I may not be able to have a direct conversation with? They should first love the product. And that is the core of what most consumer brands do. Your
Hmm.
first point is to build a great product that consumers want,
Correct.
right? The fact that we want to help the planet is something that we put on us, not on the consumer.
Right.
Consumer should not
That's,
have to,
that's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, consumers should not have to be like, oh, it's sustainable, so I'll compromise a little bit. No, 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 no. If you start thinking about it that way, then you're never going to adopt sustainability completely.
Hmm.
Now, for example, like these products, very simple, like a steel bottle, has now become a very great product. It's become a very standardized product. You get beautiful prints, designs in it. It has already moved people to sustainability.
Right.
People are already carrying steel bottles because the product needs to be great.
Hmm.
So, one of our products that does very well, especially in corporate India, is our lunch bags. Now,
Hmm.
our lunch bags made out of cotton, they have a lot of beautiful designs on them.
Right.
People pick them up because they're a great product. The
Right.
fact that it's sustainable sometimes hits them after they receive the product. When
Hmm.
they look and feel the product, they
Hmm.
read the material that we put in, and then they write to us.
Yeah.
Our other ranges that are doing very well are, for example, our crossbody bags. Now,
Okay.
these are made for our Gen Z and millennial customers.
Right.
but they're made with prints that would attract them, with the kind of utilities that they need while traveling.
Right.
And which is why these products are successful.
Right.
Not just that, because it's sustainable, you should buy it. You should
Right.
buy it because it's a great product that is sustainable.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think, Hemant is a good friend of ours. You might know him. He's the founder of the Better India, and he launched
Yeah,
this
yeah,
called the Better Home. And he had
yeah,
the same insight that you had. So essentially, first they actually tried positioning it as just sustainably first, a sustainable first, like this is sustainable, all of
yeah,
that. But they didn't. The consumer the excitement was not that high. But when they
yeah,
sort of tweaked it, they say this is safer for your home. Your children will be more safe, and this is
yeah,
how it helps you. They saw their sales increase over time. So
yeah,
that's actually, and I love that line that you use. Basically, the onus of sustainability is on the company. We want to produce a really awesome consumer centric product, and that the consumers will love. So I love that. Udit, you mentioned that you started with the US as well. I want to know more about that. Did you feel that uh, is it sort of like, let me start with the US because maybe they're a more advanced economy that they'll understand or appreciate the sustainability angle more? You think India was not mature enough as an economy to sort of appreciate this? Just want to know more about that.
See, when we started, right, first insight was that why not spread as much as possible, because these are simple alternatives that will help consumers in every country. But
Hmm.
you're right. The second insight was this, that perhaps because the idea of living more consciously
Yeah,
had permeated a little bit more a lot more in the US compared to India.
yeah.
And so the thought process was to understand, when we launched, how do consumers perceive the product here and how do consumers perceive the product there.
Okay.
So, and the thought was, I don't know, like this, India was an unknown at that point for us. Like when we started in 2018, 2019, we
Right,
weren't sure how the Indian audience would adopt these products. What
right,
has been great to see is Indian audiences have started adopting the product immensely, while the American audiences were already primed for it, right? They're looking for sustainability.
right, right,
So, which is why we've been able to scale in the US as well. So we were actually part of one of Amazon's accelerator programs called the Amazon Global Propel,
Hmm.
which is like an 8-week boot camp that Amazon runs for brands that have global potential. And we were the
Yeah,
runners-up in that program.
right,
So, like that kind of happened because like Amazon also realized that these are the kind of products that would go global very fast.
right, right, right.
Um, but yeah, the idea was that in India was an unknown. We weren't sure how consumers would react. Internationally, we know that consumers already understood the product, understood sustainability, so it might be a little easier to sell there.
Yeah, interesting. And was that validated when you were, when you started your operations both in the US and India? Was the
Yeah,
It was validated? Awesome, awesome.
we saw
And
we saw great reviews. So we have like 45,000 reviews globally,
right,
an average rating of like 4.4, 4.5 out of 5.
nice, amazing. And so, Udit, I just want to bring you back more to the early days because I feel like a lot of our audience, they have this idea and they might not know where to start, right? So I wanted to take you to the early days, like when you first had the idea. So you had the idea, then how did you go from idea? You probably ran a bunch of experiments to say that, hey, this is the probably, like you mentioned, you wanted to do something that was simple, affordable, and that talks about sustainability through the
Yes.
design, right? So how did you go from that idea to running these experiments to zoning in on that product, and then sort of I want to know that journey. How did you validate that product?
So what we did was we launched a few different sizes and shapes of tote bags.
Right.
And for any other founder as well, I think the idea is that you try and like do 2, 3 experiments. See, we've been bootstrapped also
Hmm.
so far. So, which is why we've always run our experiments carefully.
Hmm.
Also, like we're conscious about the fact that if we make too many products and they don't work, then it's
Hmm.
got a more negative impact on the planet because you've produced so many things which aren't really being put into use, right?
Right, right.
So we always like we did it a little slowly. Then we launched 2, 3 products, launched different kinds of prints,
Right.
and I think what really helps in being like an online first brand is that you get consumer like it's like a like immediately you get consumer feedback. You don't have to wait for like 6 months to see what consumers think.
Hmm.
You start getting reviews, emails, DMs, like almost within 7 days of launching.
Right.
And what is very important as a consumer brand is that you have your ear to the ground at all times.
Hmm.
So, which is why, like both Nikita and me, we still read every review that comes in
Hmm.
and every customer complaint that comes in as well,
Hmm.
because we're able to, understand what consumers want. We are able to innovate very fast. Like, for example, if the consumer is saying this is a great bag, but wish it had another pocket, and if we see that feedback coming in, we very quickly like talk to a few more consumers and then implement it in the next round of production.
Very nice.
So I think what really helps is just listening to consumers, because that's your proof, right? Those are
Hmm.
the people who have to either like, it doesn't matter what I think about the product at the end of the day. It matters what the consumers think about the product.
Correct, correct. That makes sense. And so, like, what were the? How did you initially market the product? Like you mentioned that you listed on Amazon and
Yeah.
other platforms. Was that the only form of marketing? How did you sort of get the word out there initially?
So for the first, while we were doing the experiment, we focused a lot more on Amazon.
Hmm.
Because see, at that point, we weren't sure about the product as well. Like we
Hmm.
weren't sure if this is the right shape, form of the product. Does the fabric need to be thicker? Does it need to have more features? For example, one of our initial bags was made like it was a bag that was open from the top. It just had a button closure on it.
Right.
And we got so much consumer feedback in 6 months saying, listen, I love the bag, but I can't carry it on the metro because somebody's going to put their hand and take something out.
Right.
So we were able to change that to a zipper tote bag, for example.
Right. Right.
We no longer do bags without a zipper on top
Okay.
because that's a consumer feedback that we've gotten.
Right. Right.
So, sorry, what was your question
So
exactly?
how did you like how did you sort of get your word out there initially in the early days?
Yeah, so that's what we used a lot of e-commerce in the early days.
Right. Right.
Like we specifically focused on e-commerce channels just to
Okay.
be able to get that consumer feedback. And post that, we've been using a lot of like even like we started doing a lot of social media marketing, because again, our Gen Z and millennial consumers spend a lot of time online, and
Understood.
this is a consumer base that is very comfortable buying online because
Hmm.
they know if they don't like it, they'll return it.
Hmm.
If they have a problem, they can email the brand.
Hmm.
Like it
That's
wasn't so easy before.
that makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
so also was the reason to go on places like Amazon because they had a lot of distribution already, so that you get more visibility early on and get that.
Yes.
Okay. That's
And see, like for me to like, especially earlier on, right, when we wanted to experiment, we needed a lot of consumers.
hmm.
And for me to get those consumers to my own website would end up like may or may not work. At
Hmm.
least with Amazon, there is now it like our website does really well, right? We
Yeah.
we do a lot, like we push a lot of customers to our website. People know the brand. A lot of them have bought from us before, so they don't have an issue.
Hmm.
Um, Sorry, initially, right, to get like to be able to acquire so many customers, especially both in India and internationally, it
Right.
made a lot more sense with Amazon because they have the traffic. It was about getting that traffic to our product and
Right.
seeing if it works or not.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And and so, what would you say were your in the early days? What were your biggest challenges when you were going through this launching a product and trying to get the awareness out there? What would you say your biggest challenges were, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge is getting consumers to understand that it's a sustainable product, because a lot of times, like unless I'm talking to you, I can explain to you a lot
Yeah.
of things.
Right.
When you're doing like an ad,
Right.
there's very limited stuff that you can talk about.
Right.
Um, So I think the challenge is always acquiring the right kind of customers,
Hmm.
the customers who then propagate what you're saying to the larger audience, right?
Hmm.
So I think initial challenge was just acquiring customers, and it's always like before that the challenge was to make great products, because the kind of products that we make right now
Yeah.
haven't been made out of, like, so we use organic cotton and recycled plastic. Now,
Hmm.
when we started off, these materials were very new to the market. Nobody
Yeah.
was actually working on them.
Exactly.
We've also done stuff like we made the organic cotton water repellent. We've
Okay.
made given it a smooth finish. So a lot of R&D is what we continuously do right now as well.
Right.
So I think that is one of the challenges, is to create a great product, and then how do you like acquire more customers efficiently to sell the
Right.
product?
Yeah. So that's actually a very interesting problem because you had a it's like a double whammy of sorts. You had a double challenge. You had the product which had to be figured out
Yeah,
in terms of the R&D, and then prop essentially you had to educate your consumers also about
yeah.
what you're trying to do. That's almost like for a lot of companies, that's almost like a death knell. Just like, how did you manage to overcome that? How? Like,
See, I think a lot of things become very easy if you have a purpose in mind,
hmm,
right? So for very very clearly, if you have, like, we've had two purposes always, like planet first and customer first.
hmm,
So whenever we are solving for a problem, we know that these are two places that we cannot compromise on,
hmm,
right? But it would be very very easy for us to compromise on certain materials in our products.
hmm,
Customer wouldn't even know that it's slightly unsustainable,
right,
right? But the decisions become much easier, right?
right,
When you're very clear, okay, this is what I want to do in terms of planet, this is the impact that I want to create, and this is how I want to create a product for customers. So it
right,
becomes very clear, and the decisions become easier. There is no secret sauce to it, right?
hmm,
Like, we're not really doing like a SpaceX kind of innovation where we are making a cheaper
hmm,
aircraft. What we're trying to do is basically reinvent unsustainable products to more sustainable versions. And if you go back to like a first principles kind of thinking,
yeah,
where when you start off, people would have, like, a lot of people would have said, oh, cotton bags aren't really going to work in India.
yeah,
There isn't a market for it. And a lot of people even said that, how are you going to sell across the world?
right,
Sitting in India, it doesn't really work that way. You have to do one market first. Now,
hmm,
when you kind of just break it down, saying, okay, is it really that difficult? It isn't,
hmm,
but it does need to be figured out. So a lot
hmm,
of effort went into that. But
hmm,
like I said, right, the purpose is clear, and if you're clear on what you want to do, then you kind of find a way to do it.
right. Okay, nice. That makes sense. And so essentially, once you ran your first experiments and
Yeah,
you sort of gauge that, okay, these are certain products that are working, and maybe if I do these adjustments, like adding that zipper on your bags,
yeah,
and so then you sort of over time you eventually iterated and figure out what products work, and then at this
yeah,
point, let's say you have a sort of understanding that if I focus on this product will sell, right? And will help me break even and maybe probably become profitable as well. So at that, was it at this, like, did you approach investors at this point, or were you just bootstrapped until this point? And still, did you continue being bootstrapped? Like, how was that journey like? Because a lot of
yeah,
people ask us, like especially like even people come to us in the accelerator or anyone, their first question is, can I get funding? I'm
yeah,
like, boss, that's not the question you need to ask. You need to ask, how do you become investable?
yeah.
You need that. So I want to know, what was that journey like for you?
So we've been bootstrapped so far, and we've also been profitable for the last 4 years.
Nice.
We've been able to do that by constantly iterating on products and iterating on design quite a bit. I think one of the USPs that helps us stand out is the design of the product.
Hmm.
We have not raised funds so far. It's something that we're planning to do in the
Hmm.
future just to be able to accelerate our growth. But
Hmm.
for both Nikita and me, we were very clear that we want to build a business that has very strong fundamentals first. And
Hmm.
if we ever do take investor money, it will only be to accelerate our growth and not something that we need for survival. Because see, as a product company,
Hmm.
like a physical product company, you
Hmm.
are earning revenue from every product that is sold.
Hmm.
And if you have the right kind of like financials in place. For example, if you have the right kind of gross margins,
Hmm.
if you have the right kind of optimization when it comes to your marketing, there is
Right.
no reason why you should be burning like tons of money.
Right.
Obviously, there is, if we had raised money 3 years back, we probably would have been at a, maybe like at a higher revenue right now.
Right.
However, for us, like we wanted to build the strong fundamentals first. We wanted 3, 4 years of being a profitable business, so that we know that like this is the business that's going to endure for a long time.
Right.
What happens, with investor money, when you take it for the wrong reasons and if you take it too early,
Hmm.
is that you kind of end up focusing on the wrong things. And there are so many brands that have done it, right? They've spent 5, 7 years building it and then picked up money. Um, which is why,
Hmm.
like, what I always tell like other founders is that you either pick up at the idea or like pre-revenue revenue stage, where you're kind of fixed building everything on your own, or you then wait for a few years, get the business settled, and then you raise money.
Hmm.
So for us, like it is not like raising money was not the end game for the business.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's if we do it, it'll be another like a sword in our armory
Yeah.
to go ahead, but it's not something that's our end game. So which is why we want focused on building a business that has the metrics that custom that look for, but we are constantly focused on how we can make consumers happier.
Interesting. Very, very nice. Yeah, that's awesome because I think once when what you mentioned was right. When you sort of take investor money, there's that added you sort of uh, try to maybe not fudge the metrics, but you try to do operate your business in a way that will make you look nice to your investors.
Yeah, and I mean, it's to be fair, I mean, I understand, right? Because investors are also running a business.
Correct.
It's not that's also not a charitable organization that they're going to give you like $1 million, now you do what you want, right? They will
Yeah.
also ask for certain
Yeah.
things, and they have certain business models that have proven themselves.
Yeah.
The only thing is that if you don't take it from the right kind of investors, like
Right.
for example, like a build three, if someone is building a sustainable impact brand, build three will make a lot of sense, right? Because when you like if the company comes to you and says, listen, I'm not able to do this path of growth
Yeah.
because I'll have to end up like doing something unsustainable.
Yeah.
And that's like against what, and like an investor, like, you will be like, hi, I understand
Yeah.
it's not ideal, we would have wanted more growth, but let's like maybe we can figure it out together, but don't do this, we understand why you're not doing this.
Right. Right.
Right, so if you get the right kind of investors who understand your vision, I
Yeah.
think that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's awesome. And so, Udit, I want to bring you back to when you're scaling, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're scaling, there are challenges that come in terms of how do you hire, especially when you're a. I've noticed when you're a purpose-led company. We are in Build3, we are I don't know if you're familiar with this concept. We are a teal organization. This
Okay.
this person called Frederic Laloux, this Frenchman, he wrote this book called the Teal Organization, um,
Okay.
which is basically what it says is lot of decisions in the companies like first the most important factor when you get people on board is, are they aligned with your purpose, right? And
Got it.
once that happens, then a lot of other things get figured out, because or rather than if a person is just coming to you for let's say money, where
Yeah.
they might not uh, they're just probably going to check the box and not sort of
Yeah.
their heart is not into it, if you
Yeah.
put it.
Yeah.
So I just want to know more about when you're scaling, what were the challenges you faced, especially in terms of hiring your team and growing it.
Yeah, see, I think it's very difficult. Like we found it difficult to always get the right kind
Mm,
of person who completely believes in everything that we're doing.
mm,
Because see, when someone comes to interview, like they always say that they believe in what we're doing, right?
mm.
That's part of the interview. So we always have, and what we've understood is that we always have like a mix of people.
Yeah.
So there are, I think, 3 buckets where you can put people, maybe
Ah,
4. The
yeah.
first is the ones that truly believe in what you're doing, and like some of them have been with us like since inception.
Right.
Like they understand what we're trying to do. They may not have much knowledge about sustainability, but are eager to learn.
Yeah.
For example, like there are like our certification process is completely in-house. Like
Mm,
a lot of people ask me, oh, how do you get this certificate? What consultant did you hire? We did. Like we figured it out on our own, and these are the people who I'm talking about, who have figured things out, right? Who we applied for bcorp in house.
Right.
We did all the forms on our own. We had no idea what we were doing, but we
Correct.
figured it out.
Right.
Um, and so the second is people who are passionate about the work that they're doing.
Hmm.
Like, so, for example, if there is a designer that is passionate about creating great designs, or if there's a marketer who's passionate about creating great campaigns,
Yeah.
they will adapt to the vision of the company. But
Hmm.
what drives them is that passion for their job. And
Hmm.
those people are also very valuable to us,
Hmm.
because their passion for the work is what helps the company go forward.
Right. Right. Right.
The third is people who are neither passionate about the job or this, which are like, we always have a few of those as well,
Hmm.
who are just like working, they need the money, or they like the organization itself. They're like, oh, this is a
Hmm.
good place to work, so we'll work here. I think
Hmm.
there is a place for all of these people
Hmm.
in the organization.
Hmm.
It's never like, unfortunately, it's not possible to get that perfect person who's great at their job and passionate about what we do and
Hmm.
values the company.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's not possible. And see, being a bootstrapped organization, we also hire a lot of freshers,
Hmm.
right? People who've just out of college, worked a year. Now they often also don't know what they want.
Right.
They're also in the process of self-discovery. So
Correct.
can't really hold them to, saying that, oh, this is something that you should have been passionate about.
Right.
Right? They're also in the process of figuring out what they want to do in life. And this, like, a lot of times, this is a stepping stone before they go and study further.
Right. Right. Right.
So I think it's always a mix. And I think, like, we look for, either passion for what we're doing, or passion for the job.
Right.
Those are two things that we look at when we work.
And so how like what is your process of orienting your team and sort of saying that, hey, this is why we're doing this. This is important work. This is why we're doing it. That sort of helps people get into the sort
Yeah.
of same mindset. How do you approach that?
So, as part of the orientation program, whenever we have someone new join in, we spend a lot of time with Nikita and me over the first couple of weeks, right?
Hmm.
Where we kind of drill down the purpose of the company, what we are trying to build, why we are trying to build it, what's the goal of the company going forward. So
Right.
they get aligned. And like I said, right, when you were asking, when you have to take decisions, like, is it difficult? And so
Hmm.
we kind of align them to the purpose.
Right. Right.
So which is why when they're taking decisions, becomes much easier for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
we do that.
they have a mental model in place, which makes them
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And so, Udit, like when you were scaling, also, I wanted to know more about the way you marketed it. Like right now, who do you think is your biggest consumer? Like, is it the Gen Zs? Is it the millennials? Is it people
So
and beyond? And how do you
so
market
our
it to them?
Yeah, our consumers are generally between the age of 18 to 35, because we are a bags brand that's more women oriented. So it's
Yeah.
95% female.
Hmm.
That is the target audience that we're going for. The way we market to them is we talk about, like, every time we talk about a product, we talk about two things. One is either the design and the utility of the product,
Hmm.
and we talk about the sustainability.
Hmm.
So it's not something we can do one without the other. Like I
Right.
said, right, if I just talk about sustainability and they don't know enough about the product, they may or may not want to buy it. And if
Right.
they just know about the product, then I end up competing with every other product that is out there. So what makes us stand apart, other than the design, which they can already see?
Hmm.
So we talk about what the materials are. We
Hmm.
talk about what the utility of the product is. For example, if it has multiple pockets. Now we know our consumer insight is that this product works because our customer needs multiple pockets in their crossbody bag.
Right.
Most crossbody bags have like one or two pockets. We're giving them six.
Yeah.
So if we say, like, they see the design, we talk about, this is a machine washable bag with six pockets, and it's made out of organic cotton and recycled plastic bottles. That
Yeah.
is the holy trinity that we try and get in the mind of the consumer, which is utility, design, and sustainability.
Right. Interesting. Okay, that's a very interesting point. And so you mentioned, I just want to dig a little bit deeper in this marketing thing because I sense a lot of our readers and people who'll be watching this
Yeah,
will want to know more about the specifics of that. How do you target these? Like, how do you connect with this audience, this 18 to 35, and what type of content that you create? Like you mentioned the trinity that you mentioned, but
yeah.
what kind of content excites them that they want to sort of get them into your sort of funnel and then actually make a purchase? Like, what is that like?
So we experiment with a lot of different types of contents. what has worked for us is relatable content. So let me try and like frame this better. So
Yeah.
like we've tried like making content that looks like it's out of a magazine, right? Very high quality photos and videos. Often don't work as well
Okay.
for us. For us, what works is when there is like if there's someone just walking around with the bag,
Yeah.
and like you have a photo of someone, like a real customer using the bag, that works much better because for our kind of product, when you're talking about sustainability, we try and get the audience to relate with the product.
Mm.
So that, and the other thing that's worked very well for us is making a lot of video content.
Mm.
So we work with influencers, smaller influencers. We
Mm.
particularly work with micro influencers because, again, it's easy for us to explain the vision to them and to create content accordingly. So
Mm.
we work with a lot of micro influencers to create content for us.
Mm.
We've also seen that the smaller influencers often don't have much reach, but
Mm.
they have a genuine kind of following. Like
Right.
if someone is following a person who has only 10,000 followers, they probably like what they're talking about.
Right.
Like I would follow a celebrity just for the sake of it, right?
Right.
Because I
Right.
want to see what Sachin is posting. For me,
Right.
Sachin was growing up, right? So I follow Sachin.
Right.
But like the smaller content creators who I follow, I genuinely like what they talk about, right? The topics that they're talking about or the kind of fashion that they have. So we utilize that network quite a bit and try and get them to create like content that talks about sustainability, talks about the product, and also show how the product looks on consumers. For a bag, for example, bag, apparel, accessories, fashion, it really like when they see the product on someone, when they see that is when customers will realize, oh, this would look good on me as well.
Right. It's uh, like with these micro influencers, do you also feel like you relate because probably they're posting niche content, and
Yeah,
B also it's just more easier to approach them and sort of explain the vision and the purpose of your company. Do you feel
both,
that? Okay,
absolutely.
interesting. And so, Udit, I just wanted to know now, like on your website, you mentioned you reached over 1 million customers, right?
Yes.
And that journey, I'm sure it's been a long, hard one, but an exciting one as well. And I'm
Yeah,
sure multiple points throughout your journey, you've been faced with this question. If I just do this, I probably make a little bit more money,
yeah,
but I'll not be probably very aligned with my purpose. So I want to like since we're talking about profit and purpose
yeah,
and purpose is very important, like how do you stay real, has that situation ever come up with in your company where you said if I just go in this direction I know I can make more money but I would not be true to my purpose? Has
yeah,
that ever come up? I just want to talk to you more about that.
yeah. See, that scenario exists for us every single day,
Hmm.
right? Like if I were to compromise a little bit on the materials, I
Hmm.
know that I'd be able to double production
Hmm.
and decrease the price point for the customer, which is like a win-win, right?
Hmm.
If I can give this, I can like supply twice the amount of products for even cheaper. But
Hmm.
I'm saying, like I said, right, one if you have the impact that you want to create at center, if you have that purpose,
Yeah.
your decisions follow that. But I'm
Right.
saying that on a purpose side, yes, okay, that makes sense. But I'll talk about the business side now.
Right.
What we feel is that any such decision is not a good business decision
Hmm.
because it will give us more money, more profits in the short term.
Hmm.
But in the longer term, what we are trying to build is we are trying to build trust with the consumer.
Hmm.
We want to like what we are trying to build is a brand that endures, like a brand that like Patagonia, right? Patagonia is like
Yeah.
billions of dollars in just sales.
Yeah.
Now, to build that, you need to be true to what you're doing.
Correct.
And which is why, as a business sense, I'm saying forget about the purpose. That I've
Hmm.
already talked about. That is the
Correct.
most important thing for us. But I'm saying from a very, very clear business perspective,
Hmm.
it makes sense to be true to your purpose, to let go of short-term gains for longer-term gains.
Hmm.
Now, when you're building an organization which is impact related, longer-term gains take longer to come also.
Hmm.
And that is something that could frustrate a lot of founders. But we
Hmm.
have to understand, like for example, just to give you an idea, in the factories that we work with, the like, and how a B Corp works, right?
Yeah.
The people in the factory need to be paid a living wage, not a
Yes.
minimum wage,
Or
not
minimum.
a government mandated minimum wage. It needs to be a living wage. Now,
Correct.
living wage calculations don't exist in India.
Hmm.
Like, it's not something that the government puts out.
Hmm.
So, which is why, bcorp said, it's okay, we'll remove that question. I said, you remove the question, I'm still going to answer it. And we
Hmm.
found like 3 independent research that talked about how much a living wage should be for a worker in Ahmedabad or in Gujarat or in India. And
Hmm.
we gave the data to show that they're all paid above a living wage. Now, why does that make a difference? By paying the worker slightly higher,
Hmm.
the cost of the product increases.
Correct.
Correct? That's a short term loss. But in the
Correct.
longer term, a lot of these workers have been at our factories since the very beginning.
Right.
So we've been able to build efficiency with them. We have
Hmm.
loyalty that's been built into them. So longer
Hmm.
term, it's paying off a lot. Like we don't
Hmm.
have a problem where workers are leaving us every 6 months and you have to try and train a whole new set of people to work on
Right.
the product. So
Right.
which is what we look at, right? That was a short term loss, but a long term gain is that we have a loyal workforce who likes working here,
Right.
like because
Right.
we're able to give them like I'm sure on the workforce level, and on the office level, it's much easier to do it, but on the labor, on the workforce level, we're able to give them job security, we're able to
Right.
give them living wage, we're able to give them clean water, sanitation,
Hmm.
very very safe working environment, and 90% of the workers in our factories are women who've been with
Right.
us for like 5 years plus. So, so that's what I'm saying, right? Whenever we're faced with this decision, we know that taking this decision today will make us a little bit more money in the short term. But
Right.
longer term, we want to build that a really, really, truly sustainable, clean, green brand. And that is what customers will recognize.
Hmm. That's awesome. And I read on your website that yeah, like even the people who are workers in your company, the labor, they get access to education, interest-free
Yes.
education loans for their children,
Yeah.
which I really loved
Now,
reading
when
about.
you give that, right, it's a
Yeah,
small cost to the company, but it's got so much long-term loyalty.
100%. And I know like people who are business owners who work with people like baristas and stuff like that, or
Yeah.
people who are in blue collar jobs. This is a common refrain that they have where they say that it's the churn rate is just quite high,
Yeah.
right? And like you felt like even like this was not just a purpose decision, this was a business decision. Like
It is a business decision. Yes, absolutely.
like when you made the decision, was it business first or purpose? Like when you conceptualized that, hey, we'll do this, did you think this would have the business effects that it did, like right now, or did it come from?
No, I think it was more purpose first for
Uh,
initially. See,
uh,
because you don't know what impact things have on the business
yeah,
going forward.
yeah,
But like for example, purpose first was to build a truly sustainable product, right? So
mm,
even the inks and dyes that we always that we've used from the beginning have been organic.
yeah,
So that was a purpose decision.
right,
The business decision reflects a little later.
right,
Where we realize that this is what customers are actually appreciating about us.
right, right,
Now,
right,
once you see that in the first 1, 2, 3 decisions that you make, all your decisions become like that going forward. Because
right,
you know that this makes sense from a purpose lens and a business lens.
right. That makes a lot of sense. And so I want to know what's one of the success stories that you feel most proud of because of the company that you've built? What is something that you feel really like, wow, okay, I actually get to do this every day, and this just makes, like you mentioned, you get up in the morning. This makes you get up in
Yeah.
the morning. Like, what is that for you?
I think it's not one thing, it is multiple things. Um, One is, the fact that we get customer love from around the world on a daily basis. For example, somebody from Hong Kong wrote to us a
Right,
few days back and said, you know what, I love your product, but your website isn't shipping to Hong Kong.
right,
But can you ship this to Hong Kong? I really want this.
right,
And, we made it happen for them.
right, right,
So, and they've just received the product yesterday and they loved it and they wrote us an email talking about it. I think that really makes a difference when someone recognizes us for our sustainability and for the great product.
right.
Um, I think that is something that motivates us every single day. Um, the impact that we're able to create on an environmental basis again gets reflected from um, what customers are talking to us a lot of times. Like I know what impact that I'm creating, but when customers talk about that,
Yeah,
when customers kind of post us on Instagram and they post our products saying that dude, this is really cool.
Yeah.
This is a sustainable product. I think that is a big motivator because that's what we need. We need consumers to realize that sustainability can look good,
Yes.
that sustainability can fit into your lives. And when that purpose resonates with the customer themselves, I think that's one of the biggest motivators.
Yes. That's really awesome. That's well said. And do you think that, like, are there any, I'm sure you met other people who are building impact-centric businesses. Do you think there are any, like when they start out, do you think there are any misconceptions about starting like impact-centric business? Are there sort of like you might I think you highlighted this point earlier, like you're very clear that you wanted to develop a product that consumers love, but maybe
Yeah.
sometimes people think if they just sort of go on the sustainability angle, they sort of attract users. Do you think there are any misconceptions like this which you see floating around?
I think misconceptions are that, if we build sustainable product, it will become very expensive.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the misconceptions
Mhm.
that, we have to then build a luxury kind of product.
Hmm.
That's really not true. Like we've seen that and we've proven that over the last 5 years. So I
Hmm.
think that's one of the misconceptions. The
That's
second misconception is that consumers will not understand the value proposition.
hmm.
You have to take a little more time to explain to the consumers, right? But they will understand. So if like I said, right, a lot of times the person doesn't know that they bought a sustainable bag. They just bought it because it was a great design, great utility, and they could afford it. They've still bought it. But you can still want to communicate with them, right? You can do it by sending them emails later, by sending them, you know, um, you know, stuff to read when they get the product, and that's what we do. We explain
Hmm.
the company purpose in a bookmark. We send like small note with a lot of products, like this is made from recycled cotton. Now we started adding B Corp certification.
Nice.
Internationally, people have started taking photos of the fact that it's B Corp and putting it up, saying that, oh, bought this new brand, hadn't heard of them before, but they're B Corp.
Hmm.
So, I think these are misconceptions that one, it will be too expensive, and two, the consumer just doesn't understand this.
Hmm.
Consumer understands. Today's consumer, I think, is in the smartest they ever have, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I think it just takes a little bit more effort, but it's very
Right.
easily doable.
Interesting. Very nice. And so this is my last question that I have. I just want to know, what advice do you have for an aspiring founder who's building for profit and purpose? And do you think it's hard to build for profit and purpose in India? Like, you've obviously shown that you've done it, but do you think it's hard, or like what advice do you have for people who are doing so?
Um, I think the purpose needs to be very clear in your mind, and it should be something that motivates you.
Hmm.
Otherwise, building for purpose because you think that it's the in thing, or it's something that's going to get you more money is a tenuous path to go down,
Hmm.
because building with purpose does require a lot more effort,
Right.
at least initially.
Right.
When you
Right.
get started in figuring out what the consumer wants, and figuring out how to make products, and it is a more arduous process. You need to
Hmm.
put in more effort. So the purpose should be something that motivates you.
Right. Right.
And for me, the purpose was, because I have a background in this, I understand the problems, I've read enough, that it is something that does motivate me.
Right.
When I see less plastic on the streets, it makes me happier.
Yes.
But it should be something that motivates you. Otherwise, you're going to flounder at some point, because it's going to be there are fine. Like even today, there are days where I, hit a point and saying, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. Like being an entrepreneur
Yeah.
is a very, very difficult journey.
Yeah.
Um, so unless it motivates you, it doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
Otherwise, like I said, I could have made a lot more money making plastic products, a lot more.
Hmm.
But it's not the path that I went through, and I never regret it even once, because
Hmm.
that's not something that even was part of my consideration process. So
Hmm.
the purpose should motivate you. Only then do it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I think there are very, very good businesses that you could do. There are so many great tech businesses that are not impact focused, that are still making an impact in people's lives.
Correct.
May not be social or may not be environmental. There are
Yeah.
so many things that you could do.
Right.
Like build with purpose only if you really believe in that purpose.
Interesting. And do you think it's slightly harder to do it in India, to build for profit and purpose?
See, in India, it might be slightly harder to get through, but there aren't many people doing it, as
Hmm.
many people as we should have. So there's a little less competition.
Right.
like in the US, for example, there are a lot of people who are doing it. So yes, it might be easier to build there, but then you're also competing with 10x the number of people that you are in India. So it's a trade-off.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But what we've seen over the last 5 years, Indian consumers are getting savvy very quickly.
That's awesome.
And
Yes.
trust me, after this heat wave that we are seeing right now,
Uh,
I know that another like percentage of population is going to move to sustainable products because now everybody's feeling it every day.
I think in Iran's airport it was 66 degrees Celsius. Fucking crazy. I was
Oh
like,
my God.
it's
I
just,
heard I
yeah,
heard Delhi was 53
yeah.
and we are at 48 and we are melting.
In Ahmedabad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just actually, it's the monsoons have not started properly in Goa right
Yeah.
now. It's quite worrying actually. We're waiting for it to happen any day, any day now. No problem.
And that's what the problem is, right? I mean, these are the kind of things that now it used to be theoretical that, global warming is coming, seasons are changing. It's not theoretical anymore.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
happening.
It's your people are feeling it. I think COVID did that a lot for
Yeah,
people. It
it did.
actually
It
made
did.
people introspect. It was like something like divine intervention almost for people to introspect. That's actually a very interesting point. Udit, this was amazing, man. I think it would. I don't think it could have gone any better. I loved this chat. It was freewheeling. It was honest. It was truthful, and it was useful for the people who are going to watch it. Just want to know more about how you felt about this interview. Like, do you have any
I
feedback?
thought I thought it was great. It was great to have this conversation with someone who also understands what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because the questions also come out similarly, right?
Yes.
So I think I had a great time talking to you, and which is why when you wrote to me, like I was like, let's do this.
Yeah.
This is not something that I want to miss
Yeah.
because I have missed a couple of interviews. I've
Yeah.
not been able to find the time, even like in a couple of like larger,
Yes.
newspapers, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I just don't know where I find the time. But this is someone that I was looking forward to. Thank you, Elton. Lovely speaking to you.
Same.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.